Today, people chat, they tweet and text using emoticons. But this evolution of the language is nothing new. English has evolved through generations for over 1,600 years, with borrowings from several languages like Latin, Old Norse, Germanic dialects and French, among others. To understand the evolution of the language, we have to understand its history. In AD 43, Romans invaded Britain, conquering the Celts that inhabited the country and settling mostly in the south. They left in AD 409. A few loanwords were borrowed from the native Romano-Britons. Words for measurements often come from Latin, and we can recognize the Latin word castrum in the names of some present-day English towns like Rochester, Lancaster, etc. But the influence from the Celtic and Latin languages in Old English was very small. In the 5th century, several tribes from northern Germany started to move in. The Angles, the Jutes, and the Saxons. The Germanic dialects they spoke would become known as the Anglo-Saxon, that became Old English. This means that English belongs to the same language group as German or Dutch. Unlike Latin, which had never really caught on with the conquered inhabitants, people started using Anglo-Saxon terms for lots of everyday things like man, woman, and friend. But Old English did not sound or look like English today. Native English speakers now would have great difficulty understanding Old English. Nevertheless, about half of the most commonly used words in modern English have Old English roots. The words be, strong, and water, for example, derive from Old English. In the 6th century, Latin made a comeback with Christian monks. Christianity became very popular with the locals and introduced a whole new alphabet and religious vocabulary, leaving words like altar, candle, or angel. Then the Vikings arrived in around 800 AD. They added more borrowings from Old Norse to the mix that was Old English. For example, the words skull, skin, leg, want, or skirt. Their warrior spirit was reflected in their language. They raced through the country, ransacking towns and villages armed with knives and clubs. They took lands, goods, and slaves, but they gave English around 2,000 words. The Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons battled for almost 300 years, until the English king, Harold, won the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066 and killed Harald Hardrada, king of Norway. But that same year, Harold was killed by William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, at the Battle of Hastings. William became the King of England. He began to build castles all over the country and brought his court with him. French was therefore the language of the wealthy elite. It was the native tongue of all princes, dukes, and barons. They were rich enough to eat meat, so the French nobility ate beef, pork, and mutton, which were French words. But English remained the language of the peasants. Farmers herded cows, pigs, and sheep, which were Anglo-Saxon words. A lot of the words borrowed from the French have to do with law, government, and aristocracy. Words like govern, parliament, council, marriage, or sovereign. Over the next 300 years, the two languages mixed until English eventually won out, but with 10,000 new words from the French. This language is called Middle English, but it would still be difficult for native English speakers to understand Middle English today. This richer language was the perfect medium for poets and playwrights like Geoffrey Chaucer. Towards the end of Middle English, a sudden and distinct change in pronunciation, the great vowel shift, started, with vowels being pronounced shorter and shorter. The renaissance of classical learning meant that many new words and phrases entered the language. The invention of printing also meant that there was now a common language in print. Books became cheaper, and more people learned to read. Printing also allowed spelling and grammar to become fixed, and the dialect of London, where most publishing houses were, became the standard. One literary genius contributed more than most to early modern English: William Shakespeare. He wrote 38 plays and 150 poems. He also invented around 2,000 new words, and his expressions transformed the language. The 16th century was also the age of discovery, and for Britain this meant the birth of an empire that stretched across the globe. The British colonialists often used native words, and soon words like safari or trek from Africa, pyjamas and jungle from India, and boomerang from the native Australian language had entered the English language. But the country that had the most impact on English was America. American English kept many of the Old English words, so today English curtains are still American drapes. English wardrobes are American closets. And English trousers are American pants. But throughout the 20th century, American English and British English continued to change and borrow from one another, especially with the invention of televisions first, then computers and the internet. Suddenly we needed new words to describe our blogs, posts and websites. Today, English is really spoken all around the world. There are around 375 million native speakers, and about 1.5 billion people use it as a second or third language. But it is always changing and shifting to suit our needs.